Now, you're pretty fired up about the Finance Minister's call for people attending rallies to maybe have their JobKeeper payments reviewed. Do you think that's fair?
Well, I'm asking that Australians just reflect on the fact that we're paying COVID and health-related payments to get through a crisis, but here we have rallies where people are blatantly ignoring clear and unambiguous advice. I'm challenging those protesters who are doing that to hand back those payments in advance. You can't simply collect from the taxpayer with one hand and risk infecting them with the other. And nothing's more dangerous right now, on the cusp of relaxing, to engage in what could threaten a $1 billion a day relaxation process. And we're trying to get the economy back to normal. I think families that have lost their livelihoods, people who have lost relatives to COVID, would be horrified that there's simply no interest from these protesters in doing it in a sensible, decongregated way, because everyone has a right to protest and to assemble, but certainly not to congregate, barrack and scream, which is probably the most dangerous thing you can do right now.
Do you have any sympathy for the actual cause? This is off the back of a global movement about the rights of black people. There's obvious disparity in Australia, and we've even had the Prime Minister saying that there wasn't a history of slavery in Australia, when that's just factually incorrect. So, Annalise, complete respect for these causes, but not now. And I think Australians are saying as well, it's a bit of a stretch that we have to compromise everything we've done in COVID and been a world leader on the basis that, for instance, Indigenous deaths in custody have actually been falling every year since 2015. So nothing we do between now and when it is safe to again assemble is going to change the reality that the figures are improving every year. Just 3 deaths this year is quite impressive compared to the 19 in 2015 and falling every year since. I mean, let's be clear. The judiciary decides the penalties, and I'm not interfering with that, but police have made it very clear they're going to take action. There's the possibility for organisers to relocate where there can be genuine decongregation. So finally, I'm saying to the people attending rallies themselves, in Queensland, for instance, the penalty is $13,000. So you need to know you'll be going without, effectively, COVID payments for a 6-month period, and some if you decide to rally. And I'm saying to those that want to rally, is it that important? Because if nothing else will stop you, and having politicians saying, and the police saying, and experts saying don't rally, and you insist on doing it simply because it's your form of resistance, then why should one be taking those payments funded by taxpayers in the first place? Many of those protesters would say it's that important. They would be happy to forego those payments. And so if that's the case, why not allow them to do it? And do you risking making them martyrs for their cause if you do come down on them that hard? Well, I don't think that is their position at all. I think none of them want to lose a cent of their money, and they're intent on freeloading through the system, hoping they don't get caught, and putting police in this impossible position, because the moment police take any action, it's seen as some form of oppression in and of itself. So it's a horrible conundrum that our police face. So I have complete respect for both the cause and the police, but we all agree it's the wrong time to do it. It can be delayed until it's safe to congregate. It should be relocated to where there is no congregation, because we have evidence showing that if you're barracking, screaming or singing, the separation has to be up to 7 metres, and they should move to a location where that kind of distancing can be achieved, and they're simply refusing to do so. We also have National Cabinet underway this morning. There is this discussion about Queensland lifting its borders. A lot of pressure on the state government there, we understand, from the Gold Coast Mayor as well, and we're standing by to hear what he has to say on this. Do you think that the pressure will be on Anastasia Palaszczuk to lift the borders? It's pretty obvious, Annalise, that similar to WA, this is now just a political game for premiers that are ignoring their own health advice, right? There's no health advice to close a border, and certainly if there is, I'd like to see it released. These are states that have figured out that it's a political benefit for someone approaching an election to hold firm and say better safe than sorry, and regrettably we know a large proportion of the population, because they're not paying the bill, because they're not losing their job and they're not losing any income, are happy to support a belligerent premier doubling down on irrational policy and moving our police and law and order off the front line onto the borderline to act like lollipop people. I mean, it is patently ridiculous, but the Premier's doing it because she sees political advantage to maintain a COVID topic every day to as close as her October election as possible. I mean, October's still a long way off. If there were outbreaks in that time, it would undoubtedly have a hit on her popularity and how they're managing it there. But certainly, is that not a cause for concern? If there is a second wave in Queensland, if they lift the borders too soon, when you've managed it very well up until this point?
So, two parts of the question. I mean, the first one is that there are going to be outbreaks. We know that's just normal in this, what we call the dance period of the recovery out of the COVID spike. So they're going to happen anyway. But you don't actually have any impact on those by simply closing a border. Otherwise, Annalise, you'd close every local government authority, and you can see it become patently ridiculous as individual streets and suburbs closed off to the rest of the world. So it doesn't have any effect. And don't take it from me, ask the public health experts. And the CHOs need to release that advice because the CMO here in Canberra is saying it and has said it consistently. It makes no difference to the disease.